What's going on, family? How are you? How are you? Let me know where you're tuning in from. Love to hear from you. Let me know where you're. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Let me look right in the camera. How are you? How are you? How are you? How are you? Welcome, 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 welcome. What's going on, Jesus? How are you doing, sir? Give a little buffer per usual. Appreciate y'all for those that joined early. You've been waiting on me. Like, where is this dude? He said 6:30 Eastern. Come on now. I already don't trust him. He's not on time. But snowy Michigan. Yeah, that Michigan Ohio State game was crazy. Michigan Ohio State game was crazy. Just love good college football. Alabama barely pulled it out. It was rivalry weekend. Today, if you are keeping up with the Browns and Shador, he didn't have his best performance. I still think they're withholding him, from doing anything. I'm like, you're just running Judkins, and yeah, still think they need to figure stuff out, but they'll figure it out. But yeah, here in Vegas, we've got a smooth 60 degrees. Nice and breezy with clear skies. It's wonderful here. Jesus is on the West Coast as well in Los Angeles. So see the rest of the nation with the snowy weather. Looks beautiful at this time of year. All right. Just checking everybody coming in, giving people a little bit of time, We're about 10 minutes into our buffer. So per usual, I like to give a 10, maximum 15-minute buffer. So this is the time where we promised last time you're more than welcome to ask me questions, thoughts, perspectives, just to get to know me a little bit more if you'd like. But yeah, this is a whole new audience. Many people have come over from knowing me for a while, and other people are just here on these YouTube streets like, where'd this guy come from? So yeah, I think I told my story last time about just being very traditional in nature. Born and raised Birmingham, Alabama. So yeah, somewhat am an Alabama fan. Let's cheer for the home state. So they won yesterday. And I went to Morehouse College, majored in chemistry with a minor in mathematics, and then went on to pharmacy school straight afterwards up in St. Louis, Missouri. So I am familiar with the Midwest, and the first couple of years I was there, I was like, what is this snow? Crazy. Denver, checking in. Awesome. Denver was one of the cities I was considered moving to before Vegas. So then I moved from St. Louis to Dallas, and that's where like my true up-and-coming professional career happened for my entrepreneurial career for 8 years now. For those that don't know, I've been a full-time entrepreneur for 8 years. Very short stint in pharmacy. Primarily my business has been in coaching and consulting. So life coaching, business consulting, business coaching, any entrepreneurs that are trying to start their businesses or just don't know many systems. All right, that is where my story started. So that's where I scaled. And then obviously people begin to ask, how did you do that? And that's where the finance piece came in. Hey, you're not using business credit. Why are you using your own personal? And that's where that, if you didn't know, I was one of the top creators on Clubhouse back in 2020, 2021, educating on credit and the psychology based on life coaching and whatnot. And then I've always traded. So it's kind of culminated up into this point where it's like, I don't get the doctorate. It leads into this trading and finance. And then he also has life coaching on his, I'm confused. So there's the matriculation for anybody. All right. Give me a 1 in the chat if we're ready to go. Give me a 1 in the chat if we're ready to go. Been trying to leave this to roughly about 60 minutes with me. So this is a whole new month. It'll be a whole new week, and it'll be a fresh day. So we got a jam-packed week this week on the docket for data, and people are trying to wonder if we're going to get rate cuts next week, right? So the rate cut decision comes next week, next Wednesday. So a lot to talk about to finish off the year. Cool. Ones. We're good. All right. South Carolina. What's going on, Kendrick? Appreciate you. All right. Cool. All right, everybody. Well, welcome into our Stock Sermon Sunday. This is our Sunday stock analysis and overall market analysis via trading and long-term investing. This is a place where you can learn. I'm not just giving what I think. I also kind of educate in the middle. That is the premise of this channel. So if you're here to learn, if you really want to understand how these things are happening, not just, hey, what's the play? Right. So I tend to attract and I appreciate those that actually want to learn. Right. We're going to give some plays. Right. That's nothing new. Right. Like there's going to be things that actually are going to work out. Right. Anything as a disclaimer here, financial advice, not any financial advice here. So do your own due diligence. These are things that I'm mentioning. These are things I'm doing myself. And sometimes I take certain trades. Sometimes I don't. But I think that the premise of the idea is going to be, really, really good in my opinion for people to kind of like, oh, I like that. Oh, I like that. Let me do a little bit deep dive. So the premise here is to open up the horizons for education around the stock market and also kind of take things off people's plates, right? That's why people come here. It's like, I don't have time to do all this research or all this stuff. Like, can someone just present it to me in a package? All right. All right. So that is our start here on Stock Sermon Sundays. What we'll do is we'll go over our economic data. We'll go over the earnings calendar. We'll go over the seasonality and how December typically looks. So if you're new to trading or you've been in trading or investing in a while, right, there's seasonality around this time of year, right? November and December are typically more bullish in nature, right? We kind of got an interesting November. And also, in my opinion, this has been an interesting year, especially coming into the fall, because September and October were bullish, extremely bullish. There was really no pullback at all. And then we got our pullback in a quote unquote, supposedly bullish month, which is November. So what does this December bring? I am approaching it with a very open mind. So I'll show you past December and also the previous December before that, which was 2023, how those really didn't rally like they normally do. So if you've been hearing about, oh man, is a Santa rally, is everything just going to take off to the moon? There's a possibility, right? But in this, how this year has been going, anything can happen. Okay. So I just want to mention that first, is that anything can happen in December and we got to approach it because we went into November like, oh man, it's going to be extremely bullish. And then we immediately pull back. All right. Cool. All righty. Let's jump into it. Share a screen. Let's get down to business. All righty. So the first thing we check per usual is our economic calendar for the week. Okay, if y'all been watching the videos, I've been trying to pump out at least a video a day. So many of y'all been keeping up with the videos, and you can see here, this is the same process that I took on the most recent video around my analysis for the week. Okay, so on the docket, we've got a new month. Okay, when a new month starts from a trading perspective, right, you need to kind of feel out the first week of the month. Right. Just like November started off, everyone came into November like, ooh, November's bullish. It was bullish going into, Trump's inauguration. We just skyrocketed for November. And then November kind of brought a little bit of a storm. Right. So the first week of a new month is very key to understand to which direction. Right. And in this case, we have some serious bullish signals. But before we go higher, per usual, the stock market does not go up in a straight line. So I'll talk about some entry points on the bullish case about what that looks like on a pullback, right? Pullback, and then we go higher. So we'll talk about that as well. And then what next week looks like going into the Fed rate cut, right? Now that there's around an 80% chance that we're probably going to have, a 25 basis point cut again, is that priced into this move to the upside? Do y'all remember the last rate cut that we had? Is everyone was raving on the rate cut, but we were already pushing into the rate cut. So then when the rate cut came, Powell came on, and then the market pulled back aggressively, right? So a lot of times the market can obviously play traps based off of everyone's sentiment. So now that everyone is bullish again, right, it can set another trap and pull it right back down and then take it right back up higher. The volatility is crazy. Same thing when everyone was very bearish, right? But we were pulling into support. Man, we can't have everyone win, right, with this bearishness, because then everyone will enter puts and everyone wins, and we don't like that. So let's rip them back up, trap anyone that's late to the game on the short side, right, and then have them chasing. And then when they chase, trap them at the top and then pull them back down, and then we take it to where we want to go, right? So that's why, in my opinion, any channel that's educating around the traps or where we go before we get to our final destination is a key thing to watch out for. Okay. Because in my opinion, I think we can rally to new all-time highs to that 700 number. But how do we get there is the important piece that we'll watch out for today. All right. So there's my sentiment that I've built around going into this first week is, okay, cool. The market's going to maybe have some profit taking coming into the end of the year. Maybe there's a little bit of a pullback. Where do we pull back to? Okay. Do we hold those pullbacks? And then do we go higher? All right. And this week will tell us a lot. So tomorrow we have 10 a.m. data, right? So this is going to be, in my opinion, a good trading week because Wall Street is back at their desk from vacation. They're like, oh, okay, let me get back to this money. Where are we sitting? Okay, cool. We're back to highs. The risk to reward is great, but let's drop it back down. So we've got this at 10 a.m. We've also got more data on Wednesday, ADP. We know the unemployment numbers are very important. We got PMI, ISM, again, services data. We got jobs numbers here, which is going to be very important, right? We know the job market has been suffering as of right now, which is why most likely the Fed is going to either inject some more money in the market, which is why I said December reset. I'll talk about that in a second. And then Friday, we come with PCE, personal consumption expenditure. Okay. And then here's the following week. I believe it'll show it if it doesn't. Okay. On December 10th, we'll have the rate cut decision. So the following Wednesday. So I'll tell you, for those that are new, typically what you'll have happen is that when expectancy, like I just said, about the rate cut is going to come in, you'll typically have a nice run up, right, into that news, right? You've heard the saying, buy the rumor, sell the news. So if we run up even more, right, this week, and we run up into new highs, and I'll mark my levels when I get on the charts, and we break out and we break out and we break out, I'm expecting some type of pullback before the decision. Okay. So if we run up through this week and we start off the month of December very bullish, but then we go into next week, which is going to be the rate cut decision, I will expect us to have some type of pullback. So be on watch for that. Is if we grind higher, right, going into a big decision like that, then most likely sometimes it's already priced in and we'll pull back into that news, or the news will come out and then we'll pull back, right? Because we're going up in a straight move. Does that make sense? Can I get a 1 in the chat for anyone who is on board with that or understands it, I should say. All right. So all this is giving me a sentiment of volatility. Okay. So this week, I believe Wednesday, I think Tuesday will be a nice trading day, but these two, Wednesday, Thursday, really nice trading days, Wednesday, Thursday, and then carrying it into Friday. If we get a sentiment for the week and the month to start off with, that going into Friday could carry over that extensive move. So if we're bullish, maybe Friday could carry into that extension. Or if we have a little bit of shakiness with some of the data, unemployment data, we could pull back and then pull back into Friday. Okay. All right. Let's check our earnings. Okay. Got a couple key earnings here I want to notate, which is on Wednesday after the close. We got CRM or Salesforce, got Snowflake. Yeah, I'll just mention C3 AI. It used to be very popular. If you're paying attention to that, that's awesome. Like, it was very hyped in my opinion. I haven't looked at it in a while, but that could be of interest to some people. And then UiPath. I was in Kathy Wood's portfolio. I think it's still in her portfolio. So I think that could be interesting to watch on this Wednesday. You might be wondering, Brian, what about CrowdStrike? There it is right there. So CrowdStrike, going to be a big mover in the market. So that's one that I would pay attention to. Marvel is also going to be very interesting. That's been moving with obviously the semiconductor sector, tech sector, so on and so forth. And then we've got Okta. Some people pay attention to that as of recently. It was a hot stock this year. Going into the end of the week, I've got some retailers, maybe Dollar General, Kroger, could take a look and see how consumer spending's doing with their earnings. But other than that, not really interested in trading any of these necessarily because I don't trade them on a regular. I think CRM is on a really good discount right now, in my opinion. So CRM is almost to $200. If it could fall underneath 200, that'd be great. But I think it's a great pickup now for a 2026 opportunity for shares and or potential leap options. All right, cool. All right, let's jump on the charts where the money's made. Let's jump on the charts. Okay, before I do that, let me do a little bit of edumacation here, really quick for anybody. So let me change this back to this. All right. So many people are familiar with quantitative easing or QE, and some people are familiar maybe with, or you've heard of quantitative tightening. Okay. In layman's terms, which I like to make very simple terms on this channel, quantitative easing, money printer, right? Money printer turned on. They're printing money, stimulus checks, low interest rates. They're giving money to the banks, the opportunity for also them to buy out loans in different bonds and things of that nature. But in general, they're printing money. That's what you want to think about just from a simplistic sake. So what does printing money mean? Because why is this important, Dr. B? Why are you even mentioning this? Is because as of December 1st, i.e. tomorrow, they're going to be removing the quantitative tightening, right? So no money printing. We're kind of easing off. We're not buying any bonds. We're not doing anything. We're kind of chilling out, seeing how everything's going. So the Fed is not only going to be making an interest rate decision next week, but they're also going to be potentially discussing quantitative easing going into potentially the new year. So do y'all remember 2020, post 2020? Obviously everyone does, but that was a quantitative easing period when they started printing money when the 2020 drop came and they said, hey, we're going to give everyone a stimulus check. We're going to start printing money. We're going to, we need to inject money back into the marketplace so people feel comfortable going out and spending more money, and we get people borrowing money again, and we get people in this cycle of buying cars and buying homes, and they'll maybe, get low interest rate loans, whatever, right? But as we know, the United States operates and benefits the business owner, okay? It benefits the entrepreneur. It benefits the person that has an LLC, S Corp, C Corp, right? It benefits that type of individual because what the Fed and the economy is trying to do is trying to get the average person to go back out and spend with money they don't have or money that they're like, well, maybe the economy is getting better, so let me just go spend more money. Same thing that happened in 2021. Right? That was a booming year. Everyone was back outside. They were going on trips. They were, man, I got this home for 0, 1, 2, 3%. But the business owner, sorry guys, the business owner was benefiting more versus the general consumer because the general consumer was operating, oh my goodness, don't start that. The general consumer was operating simply based off of their job's income. So what happened? Sorry guys. I don't know why it's doing that. Don't do no technological difficulties to me today. Oh my goodness. All right, we're not doing that today. We're going to keep this rolling. The 2022 bear market is what followed. Okay? The 2022 bear market is what followed. Okay? PPP loans, exactly, all of those things. So we're going to jump back into here. I don't know why it is flickering. I do apologize. But that's what I wanted to notate to everybody, is that if that is going to be happening, you want to be aware of why that is happening, how you can take advantage of it. And in this case, for the stock market, it's going to be very advantageous because the stock market is going to go up, right? So anyone involved in the stock market or asset holdings or anyone in real estate is going to be like, man, my assets are going up again. So now that gives the opportunity for the real estate investor or the real estate professional to get the consumer to come back out and invest or buy a home or whatever it might be. So again, who does that benefit? The asset holder, i.e. stockholders or anyone trading, or who does that benefit as well? The business owner and the real estate professional. Who does that not benefit in the long term? The consumer, the spender, right? So I'm saying this on the channel now to understand what this means is that when we see everything go back to the upside and they're like, hey, we're going to give stimulus. Hey, we're going to potentially print more money into the markets, right? They're preparing for their best interest. Big money's best interest, not the general consumer, because that's temporary. They're trying to stabilize the economy, and then following that typically is some type of bear market. So I just want to mention that. Is that cool with everybody? That we took a brief kind of understanding to go into a new month about what's coming. So this is going to be good for stocks, right? Back to the upside. But what does that mean in the long term so we don't make the same mistake again going into 2020 like we did in 2021? All right. Cool. We good? Spender gets in debt. Yep. All those good things. So that's why I'm so adamant about people trying to understand how to trade, because trading generates income, which allows you to go buy more assets, which allows you to also buy things in the stock market. Right. So you're two things with one stone. You get to generate more income. It is the only thing in this case that you can make money when things are good and when things are bad, and you only need a Wi-Fi connection and it's not closing down. So it just blows my mind sometimes that I had to pray today and just ask God to bring the people in my space that are willing and able to understand what's actually going on. Because you know how you just yell at someone and you're just like, why don't you get this? Why aren't you paying attention? Do you not see what the possibilities are? Do you not see what's in front of you? Can't force the person to faith, can't force the person to the stock market, can't force the person until something bad happens. And then it's like, man, I should have learned that. It's like, yeah, well, now it's going to take you 6 months to learn it. Now you're already behind. All right. So here's my little spiel. Let's jump on the charts, everybody. Okay. Now's the time that we get anybody that has been here for the first time. If you're here, welcome. I appreciate the support on the channel. If you're returning, you already know how we do. I'm going to clear everything up on my charts. And this is the time where you're more than welcome to ask any questions about specific stock holdings that you have that you want me to take a look at and chart. So what I want to do is I want to go over the weekly analysis, right? What's going to happen, what I'm watching for this week for trading purposes. And I also want to go over, Brian, are there any stock picks for like 2026 that we can look at? Anything that are leap opportunities or share buying opportunities? I have a whole watch list for that, as you can see in my 2026 buys and leaps. So I'm just continuously adding to that list. All right. So stay tuned for that. And we'll be together for roughly around about 40 more minutes or so. All right. So we're moving along just fine. All right. S&P 500. Let's analyze it from top down. Let's look at the weekly chart. Okay. Weekly chart. One thing you want to notice here on the weekly is that we have this big, green candle. We like to call it Hulk candles. It's just a straight up move from last week on a shortened week. Now, another thing I want you to pay attention to is the volume on that week. It was fairly low. The past 4 weeks have been a high seller volume. Okay. So that essentially says that this week is going to be very important to start off the new month with some positive data, some positive news, because the bulls, as I previously said, I think a couple of videos ago, hold the line. Okay. The bulls have to hold the line to continue higher. Remember that pullback I was saying. Okay. So since that was a low volume week straight up off of those lows, again, like I'm talking about before, this was a buy the dip opportunity. But can we continue, and how do we continue through that move to new all-time highs? Okay, let's jump into the daily. And you already know, if you've been here before, we've got this this equal bearish engulfing candles that look like twin tower peaks here. Okay, I've been mentioning roughly if you've been in Nashville or if you've seen that Nashville, I think it's the Bank of the Chase building, I think, in Nashville, something like that. But it literally looks like that. Okay. So that is the area that I would like for us to pull back to. That is the line in the sand, is roughly around 675. And we can even pull underneath that and reclaim it. Okay. So that is your area and line in the sand that you want to be prepared for the market to obviously pull back to at some point. Well, Brian, like, why would you say that? Number one, my case in point is this gap. Okay. It's very, very small, but there's a gap that was left unfilled from the 26th. So it gapped up and continued. Okay. So if you watch my gap fill video, what do we talk about is that the grind up typically is a grind up into that level on low volume, and the market does not go up in a grind straight line. So what I'm expecting at some point is that we get up here to wherever it wants to get to, right? And you've got to be very careful of chasing this move, okay? So that's what I was talking about earlier without the charts, is if we go straight up and we continue higher, right? We need to clear, ideally, I would like to see us close a day above 585, really 586. If you want to mark 586 just to be comfortable, we've got to clear a day. We need a daily candle to really look kind of like that, all right? We need to clear above this 584.79 level with a daily close, right? Because we can peak above it a little bit and then pull back, and you see it peaked above it and then pulled back, right? So we need a daily close above that level, the candle that looks like that, all right? That would allow you to then use this 685 on SPY as a support to then go to that 690 level and then try to take out all-time highs. So yes, we can continue. And Brian, you said it was going to pull back and I was supposed to wait for the pullback. You've got to be even more careful about making sure this clears first. Okay. So that would say that's not an A+ setup that I'm looking for bullish nature. What I want to see is a trap in here, right? Like that. And then give me a red pullback candle like this, right? Almost like it's very aggressive, right? It pulls back, $6, $7, $8, $10 as SPY has been moving. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? We're starting another month like November, right? If you're a bull, this is what you actually want to see. You want to see a pullback to come in, whether it happens this week, whether it happens going into FOMC next week. You want to see that pullback. All right. So you heard it here. You've heard it other places. That is the ideal pullback level, is fill that gap into 674, 675, and then find some type of hold at this level and see if bulls can step off of that level with strength. Okay. To do something like this. Okay. So you really want to see those twin peak towers right here, previous highs, previous highs, previous highs, hold up as support. Okay. And I'll talk about the potential way to trade it to the downside. If you're not comfortable with that, that is okay. All right. Don't want to trade against strength, but we'll talk about what that looks like. If we get a clear break back underneath 680, we could trade it back to the downside. All right. Now, Brian, what if we do something like like this move? Like you said it was going to maybe pull back to 667 and it just clears all the way through. Well, look at this unfilled gap here at 661 to 663, right? That is also something that you have to be prepared for, is that if we clear back underneath there at some point, that is also still a bullish pullback. Why? Because structurally, what does this look like for those that see it right now or have heard of it? Inverse, head, and shoulders. Okay. So even if we get a deeper pullback all the way back into 663, 665, something like that, there is still support down here where bulls could also grab some liquidity and bring it up off of those lows. Okay. So the deeper the pullback, the better for us going into 2026. Okay, I'll just tell you that right. The deeper the pullback, the better bullish nature going into that Santa rally or that push into the new year, right? Versus a grind up higher and it already goes into new all-time highs. Well, that's more likely to pull back, right, from there. So now you're chasing, right? I'm just seeing now a notification that Bitcoin just fell back below 90,000. It's interesting. Okay. Is that good for everybody? For the people in the back, can't beg them. Yep, exactly. I'm telling you, some of y'all are probably those people in your family, your friend group, colleagues. You're like, yo, you need to get on this. You need to, I just made X amount of dollars, or you need to look at this. And they're like, yeah, I'll get to that. Okay. All right. Keep staying on the sidelines. Okay. So we're good. We got our levels on SPY. Okay. So if it pushes higher, I'm really not interested in that For anyone in live trading with me that'll be inside of there in Leverage University, if you've still not joined, that is okay. Take your time. That Black Friday sale ends first thing in the morning. All right, so make sure you take advantage of that. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to reach out after the live. Okay, cool. QQQ. Now, Qs look a little bit different here. Okay, Qs look a little bit different simply because it's cleared pretty solidly back above this 615 kind of tariff high situation here, those twin tower peaks. Okay, and it looks a little bit better with more room. Okay, so the Qs dealing with tech, it's a little bit tougher to, see a deeper pullback. And I could maybe pull this back down underneath here like that, around 610, right? I'd be comfortable with on Q 610 to 612, but you really want it to hold up here. Okay. Really want it to hold around that 612, 613. So this looks extremely bullish, right? This looks like these gap fills are just going to keep going and Meta's going to pick back up. Microsoft's going to pick back up. And it looks like something like that. Right? So you want that little shallow pullback into 615 or 612 ideally. Okay. So line in the sand for the resistance on Qs. It could be just filling this small little gap here. There is a little bit of resistance right here at 620 to 621. It's a psych level. So if it can push up into 620, 621, I want to kind of see how it reacts there maybe. And maybe that'll give us our short-term resistance. It would look something like this, pop into there, pull back like that, and maybe give us that return. Okay. Just got to be mindful of this area here. Okay. We pushed all the way up into 624 and then pulled back roughly, $10 or so. Okay. So a lot of kind of trap stuff right up in here. And so pushing up into there, I do suspect that big money is going to pay attention to that. They're coming back from their desk and they're like, hey, we're in resistance right now. Let's try to pull it back just slightly. Okay. Now there's a little sliver. It's not much of this little gap right here on 610. So, if I see SPY pulling back to fill that 675, 674 gap, it's kind of the level that I may want to have a deeper look on Qs is back into 610. And then y'all see this back down here. Okay. There was a gap left unfilled. So as y'all know, that will get filled at some point. It could get filled immediately. Going into FOMC, straight up move, grinds up, and then rotates back down, then rotates back up. Okay. And that would create kind of that inverse head and shoulders we talked about. Okay. There. That's a lot better look than continuing to melt up. Okay. So 620, 621, I want to watch at the first part of the week, and then I want to watch the pullback level from 610 to 612. Okay, 610 to 612. Got to widen the ranges with this volatility. SPY and Qs are moving $8 to $10 a day. And got to widen the ranges a little bit. All right. Cool. Let's look at IWM. IWM are susceptible to rate cuts, right? They're small cap companies want rate cuts. Once that increase came into the market of the probability that we were going to have a rate cut, IWM just immediately bounced off the lows. Okay. So we got this moving average here sitting, it ticked underneath, sitting right on the weekly 20, took back out those highs of 240. So that would be the level in IWM that you would want to watch for a pullback. I see Bitcoin is now below 89,000. Wow, what is going on with crypto right now? A little bit of a pullback. So as we know, we'll take a look at that. Crypto is also if crypto is pulling back, Bitcoin is pulling back in the after hours, and we see also that the futures are also red. That will give us an indication that the month tomorrow, we might either have a gap down in the morning, we might have a little bit of a pullback as Wall Street is back in the market. They're like, cool, let me take some profits off the table. All right, I'm back from Thanksgiving. Thank you. Appreciate it. So that's what we're seeing. So my thesis going into tomorrow and into the first part of a new month is kind of playing out in the after hours. All right. Cool. So IWM, I'm watching the 250 level. I just want to kind of see what it does at 250. I think the pullback level needs to be at 240 to 242. 240 to 242. There are some gaps back down here at some point in time. will get filled, right? Back to 225 and then back to 220. So it either comes back up, creates a new high, and then rotates back down and we get a bigger dip. Who knows? We'll see. Okay. SMH, the semiconductors everyone's worried about, or what's going on with NVIDIA, AMD. If you've never looked at the semiconductor ETF, SMH, keep that on your watch along with SPY, QQQ, and IWM. It will help you trade NVIDIA, AMD, AVGO a lot better. Okay. So I see a large gap here that went unfilled on the SMH. So once I maybe see some immediate exhaustion, I'd rather get call entries back down here on the SMH, which would associate with that pullback on QQQ, SPY, IWM. So I just need to see some exhaustion. I'm not trying to time the top. I'm just trying to see where my range is, right? So I want to maybe pull this up to this last little rejection area that we had that was slight, which is in the 355, 356 area, and see if it can get a little exhausted into that area and then pull back and then we rotate higher. Okay. So now that I see that this gap is here on the SMH, what do you think? I suspect probably from AMD or NVIDIA or even AVGO, maybe a little bit of pullback on the semiconductors. Okay. So let's jump into those right away. NVIDIA, relatively weak, is one of my top watches going into the month of November. I want to see how we react in this area because as long as we're underneath 180, NVIDIA can rotate back to 170 and potentially back to the mid 160s. Y'all remember if you've been watching my videos recently, my target or my bigger dip buy pickup on NVIDIA is back closer to 150. Mid 150s would be ideal. Right, that would be the better dip buy pickup as far as swing calls, things of that nature. That's just me, not financial advice. But the more that I see this week underneath here, I would like to see NVIDIA somehow, some way, just give one more capitulation drop, right? If I see it reclaim back above 186, if I see us get back above 186 and we catapult back up here like that, that's where I will say, cool, I'm going to try to take NVIDIA calls back up, use this level as a support now at 183, 184. All right. So I need to see a candle push back above that 185, 186 level and then hold that level. And then we can start melting our way back up here and working our way back up. Okay. That's trading wise. For shares, keep dollar cost averaging, do what you want to do with NVIDIA. But that would be my level ideally for a really big dip buy pickup, in my opinion. I feel a little bit more comfortable in. But since we know that NVIDIA is relatively weak, right, we can kind of get an idea of where it wants to go. So NVIDIA is in our pop and fade. If you know in Leverage University when we trade live, right, a pop into 179, fill that little gap if possible, and then rotate back down to the lower end of the levels. We got 173 and 170. So the market gets a little bit of a pullback. If you see SPY, QQQ pulling back, what do you think is going to accelerate the fastest? The relatively weak stock. So NVIDIA pulling back to these lower ends and see if it can hold up. All right. So top watch this week with its relative weakness. All right. Relative weakness. Let's touch on AMD. AMD came off nice off this double bottom. So the only thing about AMD is it had an unfilled gap and it's got this underbelly here at 225 to 228. Just a little bit of an underbelly there, simply meaning the previous lows of support would now turn into a resistance area. So it's pushing back up into it. If you're a formation type of person, you could look at this as a potential bear flag up in that area with some unfilled gaps below. Okay. Just very slightly. Okay, you can see that little gap right there. So if it does, and this would have to have the market moving with it. So SPY pulling back, QQQ pulling back. And then if I see AMD kind of rolling over like this, then there's my bear flag move. Okay, retesting the equal lows. Bears will try to take that out and pull it back lower. Okay. So AMD still also relatively weak. even though the dip buy was really nice here off of a sub 200 pullback. All right. We check the chat. Everybody good? Do you see Hood pulling back this week? Yeah, that's what I'm going into next. Yep. So let me finish a couple of semiconductors. So there's NVIDIA, there's AMD. Same kind of look on Palantir. I really like the bullish push off of here, but I just need to see if it's going to, get a big continuation push, or is this just a little weak volume kind of push up here, and then sellers were really, aggressive here, and then we pull back like that, right? So I like the bullish setups of some of these things, but I need to see them clear some of these levels first, because it's still a lot of overhead supply right now. So I'd like to see any type of pullback to give me a true confirmation that this is a bottom, not this little grind here. Okay, so Palantir, I like the dip buy, trying to see if this is actual bottom on Palantir, because what people are looking at on Palantir is this potential breakout like that, right? And that's why it's important to just get your analysis, right? If Palantir gets back above 170 and then 174, I would like take out that high back above 174. Then we're back in business on Palantir. 174, 175, if you want to round it up to there, it needs to take back out that high, right? Where we dropped from. Okay. So it's just pushing back up into a heavy resistance area for right now. So just pay attention to it, but it's kind of like NVIDIA. It's been relatively weak compared to the market with the Michael Burry short stuff. But if I can get this and then hold kind of a double bottom like that, and it holds that, then there we go. If we can get a deeper pullback into the 200 underneath 140, that'd be even better. All right, pull back deeper like that and give us that if possible. Okay. Alrighty, let's jump into MU, also pushing back into a resistance level here at 245. Heavy resistance there. Pullback level would be simply the daily 20. So if it holds the daily 20, then we're good. If it can't hold the daily 20, that is our potential turnaround point. There's a little bit of an unfilled gap back to 212. Very, very small. But if I do see it fail back underneath this 230 level, then that 230 could turn into a rejection, and then there's our pullback, our equal pullback there. So watching this 220 level as a ideal support on MU for a pullback, but I do think it's getting a little bit overextended. So it's just me personally. ETH below 2,900. What's going on with big crypto right now? Alrighty, let's jump into Hood since Kendrick mentioned it. So Hood is going to be on high alert for a long play, obviously continuing in 2026. Now, where's the actual bottom on Hood is the key thing, because this, again, was a nice bounce off of that support, right? What I would love for Hood to do is retest either these lows at 100 or 102, or pull back into this 115 level, fill that gap first before going higher. So again, I told my group inside of Leverage University in our live trading that this little low volume rise into 130, if it stays underneath 130, we take out the previous day low. So if we can get that right there, that will give you another chance. Okay. So watching that 115 and then reclaim of 118, 115 to 118, I'd watch on Hood for a pullback. Okay. Now, if you can see here, there is a little bit of there's some gaps above, right? So that looks absolutely beautiful. That looks absolutely beautiful. And if you're a bull on Hood, which I believe everyone should be, that you want this aggressive pullback. You want that so you can get all of that move. Okay. Or you want an aggressive pullback to bring in a new low like that and bring us underneath 100, right? Come underneath 100, bring it back to these levels in the 90s, and then take us back up. So I would love 96 to 97 ideally. Okay. 96 to 97. Man, Solana's back underneath 130. Cool. So you're seeing the theme here. Everything we're still bullish on, but don't be, I think it's going to maybe shock some folks that aren't on any charts. They're like, man, we're bullish. We're back. We're back. And then the first pullback that we get, they're like, what is going on here? Because they'll just open up December with calls, right? So we want to see that first pullback. And if you're in Leverage University, you know what we'll be doing as well. If you're trading on your own, you can, take advantage of the downside pullback as well. Okay. But I just want you to give you the bigger idea. Okay. Another one that I really like this week. So NVIDIA is on my top watch this week. Just kind of comfortable trading NVIDIA. It's relatively weak where it's going. There's a key level of 180, 181 that it can stay underneath. Google, break underneath 317 on Google, right? Break underneath 317, these lows right here. If you want to wait to the 315 break, you're more than welcome. But underneath 317 could get it going on Google back through this gap, taking it back to this opening print of the 24th at 310. If we can clear 310, there's nothing but room back down into 300 in my opinion. So this is going to be, again, on one of my top watches that as I'm waiting on the pullback to get bullish, right, or I want that deep pullback, what's something also that can accelerate with it, right? So NVIDIA relative weakness, Google getting a little bit, overextended / hey, pops, fades up here. Every time it popped, faded back down, popped, faded back down. All right, if we can get this overhead trapped bulls up here to fail and their stop losses hit, then there's a straight down move that we can take advantage of through that thin structure, right? So that's going to be a top watch for me this week as well, is going to be Google back to the downside, more specifically while we're waiting on the pullback, ideally. Okay. Amazon, another really good looking chart that is bullish. Okay. So if you can get a pullback into the 225 to 226 level, that is right at these daily moving averages here on Amazon. That would be a decent pullback in my opinion. So about a $8 to $9 pullback. I know there's a gap below, so the deeper, the better, right? Pause. Okay. Oh my God. I didn't think I was going to pull out a Gen Z term today. Okay. The greater the pullback, the better. Okay. But if it can pull back all the way into 222, that'd be awesome. Okay. That'd be awesome. If it could pull all the way back into 222, that is another bullish setup for a potential inverse head and shoulders. There's the right shoulder. They'll be right there. And then us to catapult off of that level. Okay. So I do like Amazon a lot, especially going into this holiday season, especially going into their next earnings, right? If Amazon can give us that pullback into 220, 222, that'd be great, but it might have a shallow pullback into 226, 227. Okay. And your target would be looking for Amazon into the 240s. Now, what if, Brian, we don't get that pullback? Watch for Amazon breaking above this 235, 236. Then you got 240 in sight plus. And then it's a true just break of structure. There's that structure break, rotating, and then it's just going to continue. Okay. So you can watch break of previous day high, right? That same setup that we normally talk about on our videos, break of previous day high. With continuation into our next target of 240. All right. So Amazon, another bullish setup that is on a dip. We just need a shallow pullback on it. Haven't really been interested in Apple lately. I really haven't. Just bullish consolidation up here is holding up very strong through all that turmoil. Apple just did not even budge. And so I'm not really interested in Apple until it gives me a deeper pullback and not this grind continuously. So if you like to trade Apple, maybe hold above 280, right? Or wait for a pullback into these equal lows of 270. I think there's some gaps back down to the, 270, I believe. Yeah, there's some gaps down here I would like to fill first, but that's just me. So maybe it'll trap some overhead supply here and fall back into this range. And then we pull back into those like that, something like that. But with Apple's strength right now, that's just bullish consolidation. Okay. So not really interested in Apple. Let's talk about Microsoft. This was a nice dip buy off of this level. Again, pushing back up into this level here. And we just need to see how it reacts. So it's pushing back up into this daily 20 moving average, which is sitting just slightly underneath 500. So does Microsoft reclaim 500 and we get back up and we sit back up here? Cool. Then we can, reclaim Microsoft and take it back to the upside. But again, what I would like is not to chase it up into this level. I'd like it to pull back. All right, fill that bottom end gap, and then we find a true bottom, maybe a double bottom, higher low, something like that. So maybe 480. We could look at 480, 477 if Microsoft wants to hold this structure here. But pull back through that gap would be great. Meta, same thing. Meta is very, very strong. If you picked up the dip on METU or you picked up some Meta shares, awesome job. Around 600, holding that level, right? And now we're pushing back up into a key level here, which is roughly around 660 to 663, okay? 660 to 663. What do we do right up into where we dropped off a cliff, right, after its earnings and continued, okay? What you really want to see off of these levels is some type of double bottom. You don't typically get, or sometimes you do, like you get a V bottom as it's called. It just pushes down to the level, never gives you an entry, just V bottoms off of there. That's not normal what happens, okay? What you want is to set a bottom. So this V bottom here, you want it to set a higher low or an equal low right there, and that's where you can catapult higher, ideally, okay? Just my thoughts. But if we grind higher and we start getting up into here, then, the risk to reward is different. Shares are great, but trading it, could be a little bit tough. It needs to clear some levels, but pullback will be a better trading opportunity. But shares are still great. Shares are still great. I told everyone what I would really like on Meta. And sometimes you just wish and you hope and you think that it's going to give you is these different buy zones here. Right? That's what I would love to see. Just a massive rejection off of there and do that. That'd just be super easy money. Just absolutely super easy money, but we can't time the bottom, right? So you just pick up the dips where it is. It was already, off the highs, over 30% off the highs or so. So that is in quote unquote short-term bear market territory. So you pick up the dip there and you don't ask any questions. Okay. Cool. Let me check the chat. I'll take a pause for a second. Got some METU. Awesome job. Do you see Hood pulling back? Touched on that already. Cool. All right. Still good in the chat. So everything I'm doing right now are my weekly trading plays. Okay. What I'll be looking for this week, if you're trading live with me in Leverage University or you're trading on your own, like I said before in my videos, I typically only trade or day trade the top tech stocks and the semiconductors, right? And obviously SPY, QQQ, IWM. So I covered those. So if anything outside of that would be more of my swings or leaps or bigger plays that might, I don't want to day trade. I just want to, either buy shares of them or bigger swing trade idea. So let's look at some top setups here for 2026 that you may want to start thinking about. Okay. A lot of times it's not the sexy ones either. Really good setup right now that I see on a couple of the borrowing stuff. So if we have lower interest rates, think about this. If they start printing more money, lower interest rates, people start borrowing at a cheaper rate again, people start putting stuff on digital layaway, such as Klarna, Affirm, you already know, right? So these could be very interesting for that time span. So I'll put these on your watch list. If you've already been watching Upstart, this is a great level here that Upstart's at $40, right? 44 to be exact. But right here at this $40 level is a lot of buying action. If I turn on my volume profile, right, there's a lot of buyers sitting in that level, okay? On the daily level as well, some buyers step back in. You can see the upside potential on this if it wants to retrace back to the $87, $90, $100 level. You see it's already curling here off this bottom filling that gap, coming off of that $40 level pretty nicely, right? So I would look at this as more of a share buying opportunity, maybe a leap or a big swing opportunity into June of next year. If you're just looking for something that, might take a while, but it's a great risk to reward, in my opinion, right? The RSI on it is sitting on a weekly is sitting down underneath 40, which is really good. The MACD is also starting to curl just a little bit on the weekly. Okay. So Upstart, that's another one that I would look at if you want to have kind of a chill, something that you could put out a little bit further if you're interested. Obviously, do your own due diligence on it, but I do like the structure technically on this Upstart move. All right. Affirm, another one. Okay. Another one here that I would like a little bit lower, but Affirm is a little bit stronger than Upstart. And we have this nice trend line that's sitting right here on Affirm. All right. So yeah, I would say this area right here, same structure as Affirm. It's just a little bit higher off of the lows. I wish it was kind of more down in the 40s or 50s, but this could hold up right here. If this starts breaking back and holding above $70, you could get back to 80, which is that gap fill, and then back to 90, and then back to the highs, especially if we have some rate cuts. These companies typically thrive or move very well off of rate cuts. So those are two that I would take a look at for sure. What just happened here? Did I just go off? There we go. What just happened? So those are two that I would look at for a big swing idea. All right. This one is a little bit more early. We're early. Okay. Early to this, in my opinion, is bull. Okay. Bull. People are always looking for like, what's going to be the next Palantir, the next Hood, or what's the under $10 stock that's going to move to $30, $40, $50, right? I would definitely keep an eye on bull. I've been doing my research. Obviously, I'm on Webull right now. I've been doing my research and due diligence on the company, and their revenue is continuously increasing, right? They're continuously increasing quarter after quarter after quarter. Right. So I think a risk to reward on this is really great. And when I'm looking at something that's underneath $10, my return on it is typically trying to just get a double up. Right. If I can get more than that, that is absolutely amazing. Right. So if you're taking bull, into consideration, do your due diligence on it. But anywhere underneath this $10 range, right, moving back to 15, back to these highs, and then moving back ultimately to 20. Right. There's your kind of double up on just shares. OK. This is also, in my opinion, a decent risk to reward for a leap opportunity, right? A leap opportunity into 2026. So you'd like to see a reclaim of this $10, but yeah, I would just keep an eye on this bull, right? For that kind of Robinhood secondary move. All right. You can see what Robinhood was at back here. At $6, it IPO'd. It just kept falling underneath the IPO, moved back to 6, and then just consolidated for about a year, right? And we were talking about picking up Robinhood at underneath $10. If you've been in Leverage University for that long, okay? So while everyone was bashing on Robinhood and saying, I would never trade on there and I would never put my real money on there, and now it's a one of a kind. Right. So bull, I would definitely keep on your watch list for 2026 as a essentially a repeat of Robinhood. All right. I think a great pickup for shares is right around this $8 to $9 level. If you want to keep a stop loss, just keep it below $8. But yeah, anywhere between 8, 9, reclaim of 10 would be really nice. I think we can get some nice bullish move up towards there. All right. Let's look at the next one here. If anyone has any, you're more than welcome. I'm gonna look at some bigger ones here. Team is very interesting. This one's very interesting, and I'll talk about CRM probably next. But Team is very interesting here at Legion. Right around this, 150 to 130 level. Very interesting to see. And I've looked at their financials. They look pretty good. I think it's just competitiveness and competitors that are stepping in. But this is one that I would definitely keep a look at for share opportunities, maybe a short swing trade. This is what I want to see out of, a 6-month move or a potential 3-month move next, is something starting to consolidate at a weekly or a monthly low and starting to find some type of curling action on the RSI and the MACD. All right. So I'm starting to see a little bit of curl here back on the weekly. All right. The daily starting to curl there just a little bit if we look on the daily. All right. We're just not getting any volume off of it yet. So we probably need to see a little bit more on it, but just been watching it on the side. I'll mention on the side here. I think a lot of questions have been around, the retailers. And I know that's not the sexy thing, which I'll go right back to AI and all the tech stuff, like BBAI and all those things. And we'll talk about Lyft and Uber as well. But I think just understanding the economy in general is going to be important to, these companies that you may not think about that it might go crazy or return or come back. You got to be a little bit more careful with it, just because of, the looking more into their clientele and whatnot. So if you're not interested in that, that is okay. But Lululemon on this dip underneath $200, right? Maybe seeing if it can go back down to 100. I would like it even more. But Lululemon has it's like the Amex customer, right? And, that's why they partnered, right? We can see that American Express, right, is still thriving. So if we look at Lululemon, they have a different clientele than other retailers where people are still going to buy their athleisure stuff, right? The people that shop at Lululemon spending $120, $150 on leggings, and for men, $90 on shorts, aren't really concerned, right? They're going to like what they like and they're going to buy what they want to buy. So I like this place simply because it is advantageous to the wealthy consumer who's not going anywhere. So Lululemon is definitely one to pay attention to. And I do like that it has all these gaps back to the upside. Its earnings is coming up next week. Okay. So this might be on very top watch situation with this consolidation. You see 1, 2, 3, 4 holds of 160, and it came off of 160, headed into that gap, right? And it's starting to curl a little bit. If you can see here, it's starting to come off of that downtrend, starting to curl up like that. So I do like Lululemon back above 200. I think you can start getting some serious buyers back in, targeting these gaps back to the upside. So if you watch the gap fill video, you already know, look at all these gaps back to the upside. So what if that is when the stimulation, the quantitative easing comes back in, the money printing comes back in? And my word choice today is crazy. But yeah, take a look at Lululemon. Let's jump into Lyft. I think everybody and their mother has been looking at Lyft. So I don't really, if you haven't heard it before, right? Lyft, $19, $20, great pickup, taking it to 30. If you haven't seen the chart before, there is a gap, right? That is right here going into 30. So I think I have to zoom on a daily, I believe. There it is. Look at that gap right there through that thin structure back to 30, 32. So that's, in my opinion, easy money on Lyft because you do have a lot of consolidation here, right? And buy zones for Lyft would be right around $16 to $18 or picking up right around 20, right? With your target being at $30+, right? If you have a higher price target than that, we already know that I believe that Lyft can be, a lot higher than that. I think Lyft can curl back. It's starting to look like a Robinhood chart in my opinion, right? How Robinhood looked when it was curling like this, and Lyft kind of being that next Uber idea and pulling all the way back up here. But we got to get through some levels first. I think we got to really clear back above the mid 30s if we want to see Lyft really start taking off. But right in this area, I think a good, short swing trade, shares, whatever you want to call it. But right around this area, I think it's a great buy for Lyft going into 2026. Let's look at BBAI. I know people are looking at that recently. Like, what is that going to do? Yeah, I think, still this trend is holding up until it doesn't. Sorry for all this stuff on the screen. This trend is holding up until it doesn't. So BBAI right around $6, taking it, try to take it back up to the highs, stair stepping back up to mid sevens. I think many people's target is trying to get in that double digits of $10+ again. So do what you want with that, but I don't like to speculate on anything being, taking out new all-time highs until it actually starts taking off, right? But it's clearing levels, and this could be stair-stepping bullish consolidation going higher, right? So I think if you think about it from 6 to 12 or 6 to 10 on shares, that'd be a lot better. And then if it keeps going, then you win, all right? We're all good there. Celsius, another one that's very interesting here, off of this $40 level with a big gap back up to 60. It's always the sleepers. It's always the sleepers that you can, put some, maybe 6 months on the contracts if you want to trade it. Maybe you don't want to own it. That's okay. That's why the options chain is there. Is maybe you're like, hey, I like the setup on Celsius, but I really don't want to own Celsius shares. I'd rather put it in AI or tech. Okay, cool. Go out to June 18th. Look at the mid 50s potentially, or go out a year, right, into January. And if you're more of an in the money type of person, you see the chart. All right, so if it does hold up this nice support level, support zone of where buyers are sitting right around $35 to $40, look what happened last time it got here, went back up to 69, and then ultimately went back up to close to 100. Right? So Celsius, I think, is a nice kind of consolidation, falling wedge here from a structural standpoint. If it starts building off of here, this could be another bull flag right here. And then you're looking for this to start taking off like that. Right? So Celsius, another one, could be easy money for people taking it into 6 months or shares into 2026. Excuse me. ELF, another one. I need to see where like a bottom is on this because it's curling down, but I do like the gap back up. I'd like it maybe one more capitulation drop back down, maybe into close to 50. I'd like that a little bit better. All right, if it can just roll over back to 50, the women are not going to stop buying their makeup. So that's another one. Let's go into our big tech. Actually, I'll check the chat. We're rounding out to the top of the hour here, so come on down, ETH. I need to be $1,700. Yep. Let's check the crypto market. Oh man, yeah, we're gonna have some red with SPY QQQ pullback. If Bitcoin's already pulling back after hours, we know that Bitcoin and crypto are becoming kind of our risk-on assets. It does not mean it's bearish. It just means that it may profit taking off the lows and then retesting the lows. So if y'all watch my Bitcoin video recently, it's kind of doing exactly what I'm wanting it to do. So if this actually turns out to be a bear flag, right, and takes out 80, then it's doing exactly what I wanted to do. Right, then we're coming down into buy zone. There's my next target, mid 70s. Then my buy zone 2, which is right around 60. So I do think that there's going to be a little bit of a double bottom. I don't think it's going to break that easily around 80. So it could just be another retest, but that looks pretty good. All right. And it's just a telltale of Wall Street coming back into the market. And they're like, what are y'all doing? Let's continue the downtrend. What are we doing? So low volume rise, everyone picked up the dip off the low. So for Kendrick, if you're still in here, this could be interesting for Hood. If Bitcoin and crypto are pulling back, could we get that Hood pullback with this break of structure and target that gap fill? That'd be very interesting. So if we can get hood breaking back below some of these thin structure levels, you see that thin structure right here, thin structure through there, and then pulling back like that, that could be interesting for a nice potential day trade. All right, targeting back to 120. So I'll definitely be keeping that on watch with crypto pulling back, is maybe hood trying to pull back closer to 120. And then there's that gap. So you already know what I'm looking at. Looking at some of these contracts down here, 123s, maybe 120s. I think that's a little far out of the money, but we'll see. We'll see what happens in the morning when we wake up in our live trading room. All right. Cool. Yeah, no problem. No problem. That's it for everybody. I'm gonna stick with my word. We got a lot of people in here today, viewing, watching. Make sure y'all take advantage. I apologize again for the lighting, but take advantage of that Black Friday sale if you want to join us in Leverage University and start trading with us live. If you have any questions, go ahead and just join the newsletter down below. Right, the link will be down below, or you're already clicking on my Instagram. That's cool too. Just join our newsletter. Right, no pressure, nothing. You can message our team there with inside of WAP, and have any questions like, hey, I'm thinking about joining, or hey, I'm just gonna stay here. I appreciate the videos. That's cool too. All right. Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much, Bernard. Tanvir, appreciate you. Wall Street guys are going to take out a lot of liquidity more after letting the market gain that Thanksgiving fat. I'm holding SPY puts. Yep, I like it. I really do like it. Y'all know me. Give me some red. Give me some red. Now, I want to start the month off right, so I don't want to get too excited, right? And hopefully we don't gap down. That's my thing. Hopefully we don't wake up in the morning and we gap down, but it looks like the futures are already starting to pull back here into that level. So we might have a gap down in the morning. So I'll look at the futures market. All right, here's ES, right? We marked that level on SPY, if you remember that, which is right there at that tariff high situation. Where is ES, the ES futures pulling right back into, right? In the after hours, right? So that's a shallow pullback already. So I know that there's going to be a gap probably in the morning to the downside. So if it gaps and goes, then we just continue and we'll be there already in the morning, right? But if we can slowly just stay right around here, that would be even better, right? There'll probably be a little bit of a pop, and then I want to see it roll over, and then there's our juice. All right, so you're absolutely right, Tanvir. Absolutely right about that that liquidity. They want to grab up some more liquidity to drive it higher. They do not want to buy these highs when everyone's like bullish, 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 and you just chase calls because we had a great Thanksgiving week, right? That is normal. Cool. All righty. We're going to short some tomorrow. Here comes NVIDIA and Microsoft puts. Yeah. Yeah, I'll be looking at NVIDIA puts. I'll be looking at my trusty Google as well for that breakdown and that potential gap fill. And I'll take a look at hood as well since crypto is pulling back. So I'll take a look at Google, hood, and then what did I just say? Google, hood, NVIDIA, and maybe even AMD. Maybe even AMD, but AMD I don't like to trade at the beginning of the week. Contracts are kind of pricey sometimes. So we'll take a look at SPY, QQQ, and IWM as well. All right. Do you have a video on Webull? I downloaded and signed up yesterday. Yeah, Keith. I don't believe I have a video on the channel. I don't believe on Webull. Don't believe. Sorry, guys. I don't believe I have a video on the channel, but I'll make one on my Webull setup. Cool. AMD target. AMD target is back down to 205 and 210. You'll see here there is a little bit of a gap. So I've got 220 as that nice psychological level. All right, so we pull back. If you already see on Robinhood, maybe it's already after hours and it's showing, but right here at 215, if we get a failure back underneath 215, then there's a little bit of a gap right there back to that 207 level. And then if that doesn't hold, then this is a full, bear flag, and then we're going to retest the lows again. So I would just say right around 207 to 210, 207 to 210 for a pullback on AMD. A little bit of a high volume node sitting right around there. And then we've got the lows sitting right back at 200. So shall see. Shall see. Cool. All right. Yeah, no problem. No problem. No problem. Congratulations to everybody who joined the mentorship or Leverage University recently. There's no pressure at all, but I do want to celebrate those that have joined. I know it's not easy to, trust somebody or someone on the YouTube streets and like, yeah, do I join? Do I not? So that's cool. If you want to stay here, if you've enjoyed the content, it will keep coming. No pressure at all. I will see anyone tomorrow in our live trading room first thing in the morning, and we will get some money. All right, to start off this new month. Peace, love, and blessings to y'all. Thank y'all so much. You have a great